Yo, yo, yo! Welcome back to the Four Wide Fantasy Football Podcast. We're here yet again to talk about Week 10 and give you a Week 11 preview. Week 10 was the week of the underdogs. The Broncos took out the Bills, and the Cleveland Browns came back and took out the Ravens. Josh Dobbs didn't know which locker room to go to. We're back again. Your co-host, Shed, Olu, Will is back. The Express is back with us. And yours truly, Matt. We're here yet again. We are so excited to share our fantasy football takes with you. Thanks for being a part of the huddle. Please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. We have a fun episode for you today. But fellas, here, guys, listen, we're at episode 10. I think this is episode 10 today.
Amazing.
We actually made it 10 weeks long of doing this. So thank you so much to those who are subscribing. We appreciate you guys. But let's kick this episode off. 1 minute of shine. Shed, you're up first, man.
All right. I'm going to start off by I told you so when I said that Purdy versus Jacksonville was a matchup to explore. I said it last week. I said the 49ers will bounce back because Brock Purdy had 3 touchdowns for almost 300 yards passing this past week here. Kyle Shanahan will limit the turnovers. Like I said, McCaffrey should be back close to full healthy with Debo. And with everything full strength, they will bounce back with not only a win, but a monstrous win at that. And this Jacksonville defense, I knew it. They're like a boom or bust defense. If opposing offenses can limit their turnovers, which I talked about last week, if you limit their turnovers, this defense can be had, and they're very turnover reliant. There was no turnovers, and the 49ers took advantage of them. So you had 2 things going on here. You had 2 streaks. You had the 49ers who had 3 losses in a row, and then you had the Jaguars who had 5 wins in a row. Something had to give, right? My bet was on the 49ers, and the 49ers took it, and they got the win.
Shed, you just jump on the podcast, and the first thing you say is, I told you so.
I was right.
Listen
to me.
Who hurt you, Shed?
How at your boy?
Guns are blazing. Like,
look at me. I'm the captain now. I know what you need to do.
I am the captain now. Olu, 1 minute to shine.
Yeah, 1 minute to shine. All I want to say is defense. We like the modern NFL is known to be an offensive league with lots of yards, lots of passing, touchdowns, explosions everywhere. But now in today's league, it seems like defense is what's been winning most games. If teams don't have good defenses, they don't win games. For example, let's highlight one of the best games this weekend. The Detroit versus Chargers was an offensive explosion, but the team with the better defense won. The Chiefs, and they don't have a good. The offense is not playing well this year, but they have a phenomenal defense, and because of that, they're 7-2. Baltimore Ravens, their offense is not it's not where it needs to be, but their defense has carried them all the way to where they are. And then we look like the Cleveland Browns as well. We also defense. We look at the Jets. The Jets have a winning record.
Yes, they do.
That's all defense. The Broncos, as you know, yes, Russell is playing better, but the defense is forcing turnovers. So if you just look down all the good teams, or teams that are ascending, and teams that are not doing well, is really because their defense is not quite carrying them. So I will say, defense is well alive now, and defense wins games, not just championships anymore.
Olu, but that's been the phrase. Defense wins championships.
But
he's saying that got lost. The last few years, people forgot about that. It's still the reality.
Yeah. So many people forget about it because fantasy football, in a lot of ways, fantasy football is not about winning games. Fantasy football is about player production. But you're right, 100%.
I'm not even talking about just fantasy. I'm talking about real football. Like in the recent years, it's all about offense. Like we know offense can carry you all the way, but now defense is working up. They've stepped their game up to match offense. So that's what I've noticed so far in the NFL at large.
Come on, defense. Will, go for it, baby.
All right. I got to give love to my man, Josh Dobbs, with my 1 minute to shine. This has got to be the greatest story of this season. I think if it wasn't for DeMar Hamlin literally coming back from the dead, okay, and staying on the roster and even getting some game time. Josh Dobbs would be the whole thing. This man was a 4.0 student in college, aeronautical engineer. He has the best nickname we've heard in recent memory, the Pastronaut, okay? 2 weeks ago, week 9, he doesn't know the playbook. Now, I forgot this. I don't know if y'all realize that the microphone cuts off when the play clock hits 15 seconds. So once it hits 15 seconds, the coach can no longer communicate into the helmet of the quarterback. So Kevin O'Connell's calling the plays, and then within like 8 to 10 seconds, explaining to Josh Dobbs what route each receiver is running and what he's going to be looking for. They win that game. He has a great game. Then they win again last week. This man's going to be the starting quarterback for the Vikings the rest of this year, and he's made them into a playoff contender, winning 2 games in a row, tacked onto their 3-game win streak before that. So my 1 minute of shine goes all to Josh Dobbs. I'm happy for you, man. I love seeing what he is doing.
Yeah, I'll say a little bit about him in another segment, but I did read that he got lost in the stadium and went into the wrong locker room. No, but my 1 minute of shine has nothing to do with football. What the heck happened to the weather? Okay, so none of you guys live up in the Northeast like I do in Boston. And apparently the weather went straight from fall to winter. Okay. It was almost it was almost as if we said, "Hey, yo, fall, you coming?" And fall said, "Yeah, me and winter are pulling up right now." And what happened to my family is our water it didn't get shut off, but they've been working on my street redoing the pipes for the last 2 months. I kid you not, there has been jackhammers and excavators, backhoes, dump everything right in front of my house. They're trying to redo my piping. And so they basically turned off our water and are running our water through a hose. That hose froze. And so we didn't have no water for like the last day and a half. And it was whack. Couldn't brush my teeth. I basically just threw 5 breath mints in my mouth. And then couldn't take a shower. So it was rough, man. But anyways, that's my 1 minute of... It's not even shine. It's just 1 minute.
That's your 1 minute of crime. Your 1 minute of crying.
That's right. I went outside to the guys working on I said, "Yo, I ain't got no water, man." Anyways, we have a great episode today. In just a few moments, Will's going to run us through our injuries. We'll talk about our biggest takeaways from week 10. Of course, we're always going to do week 11 matchups to exploit, matchups to avoid. And right now, because we're still technically mid-season, we're re-ranking players. We've already done quarterbacks. Last week, we did running backs. Today, we are re-ranking wide receivers from this point to the end of the season. Stay tuned for that. We're going to help you out for the rest of your fantasy football season. And then we will close out our episode with our single game mock draft, one of our favorite things to do. But Will, take us away for the injuries, my brother.
All right, this is going to be quick because there's only 2 new injuries of note coming from week 10. The first one is Derek Carr. If you saw him, he got that high-low tackle. It was a combination of a concussion and a re-injury to the shoulder, so he's going to be out for some time, maybe a few weeks. There's a real debate if they should start Jameis Winston or Taysom Hill at quarterback. It sounds crazy, but they are going to have to make that decision. And we can talk in a second about how that would affect the rest of the skill players. Then you've got Alexander Mattison on the Vikings with the concussion. He'll be out at least this week 11. And Cam Akers already is out with the Achilles, so it looks like Ty Chandler's going to get the start. He did well with what was given to him last week. He might be worth a plug-and-play start if you're in a tight spot with bye weeks and injuries coming up. And then we've got guys coming back. Kyler Murray obviously made his return on Sunday. Looked amazing. He's all the way back. Looks like no limitations. Justin Jefferson might be coming back this week to that resurgent Vikings team with all the energy Josh Dobbs is bringing. So he's going to be an instant breath of life if you had him on your team and you've waited patiently. Devon Achane looks like he's coming back this week. So this man was on a tear before getting injured. Hopefully he can jump right back into that kind of production. And one other thing to note, T. Higgins is still going to be out with the hamstring for the Thursday night game against the Ravens. So if you have him on your roster, you're going to be looking elsewhere for receiver production. Guys, any thoughts on the injury roundup for this week going into week 11? Should the Saints start Jameis or Taysom? That is a real question.
Coming back.
Neither.
No.
Neither?
Did you talk about 18 coming back?
Dump it up to Kamara.
Taysom for rushing upside.
Yeah.
I was going to say the injury roundup is so wild. The Vikings have lost so much. Like,
Yeah.
Vikes.
Kirk Cousins, Justin Jefferson, Cam Akers, Alexander Madison. It's like, golly, Nah, I don't have any other reactions.
Who saw this coming, right? I mean, who saw Dobbs coming, right? I mean, like,
it's amazing.
Yeah.
We were talking about how funny it was that you had mentioned at one point, Shed, the Joshua Dobbs train. And we laughed about it. We were like, what Josh Dobbs train are you talking about?
You did say
now
that.
He might be a league winner for all these people who have lost quarterbacks.
You're the captain again.
He is. But what makes it so egregious for, like, the Jets who don't have a quarterback? We'll go with the Jets. The Jets could have grabbed him at any time. They refused to. That's why it makes me think that the issue with the Jets is not Saleh. Saleh is trying to be kosher and be nice, but it's on the owner and the GM that are pulling the strings.
Yeah.
And think about how many quarterback needy teams are out there, and Joshua Dobbs is. I mean, hey, I was going to talk about him. My biggest takeaway. I guess I don't anymore because we're all talking about him now. But the dude's winning. Like, he just won his last 2 games for the Vikes, and on top of that, for the sake of this podcast, he's putting up fantasy production, and he won 2 games for the Vikes without Justin Jefferson.
Right, and rushing production too.
His rushing upside. The guy's rushing for touchdowns. He's rushing for about 40 to 60 yards a game. He's winning games.
He has the second most running yards behind Lamar Jackson among quarterbacks. Second most rushing yards so far. Unbelievable.
Nobody saw this coming. I mean, the guy's winning, and he's putting up fantasy production.
He is QB6, QB7. Let that sink in for a second.
The last 2 weeks?
No, the season.
Oh, the season.
He's QB6, QB7. He's QB6, QB7.
Oh, wow.
See, because I think a lot of it is the rushing. I didn't realize
it's rushing upside, man.
Rushing yards he has, but that's what's carrying him fantasy-wise.
Every time that there is a quarterback with rushing upside, it's like the guy's going to ball out. Like, rushing upside is so valuable for fantasy football.
Look, Dobbs' last 3 games, 25 points, 25 points, 27 points. Fantasy points.
Unbelievable.
I mean, that is legit.
Yeah.
That's legit, right?
Love it.
So, all right.
Well, let's move on, guys. Let's keep it moving. We'll talk about biggest takeaways from Week 10. Shed, start us off, man.
All right. The first thing I got to say is, like, the AFC North, they are the best division in the NFL. If playoffs were to start today, right, 3 of the teams would make the playoff. The Ravens would be the 2 seed, the Steelers would be the 5 seed, the Browns would be the 6 seed, and the Bengals would be the 8th seed on the outside looking in. Technically, if we went by record 100%, Bengals might even edge the Texans to get in, but obviously division winners automatically go. So let's start with the Browns. The Browns won this week with a walk-off field goal versus the Ravens. Deshaun Jackson in the second half. Deshaun Jackson was Houston. Deshaun Jackson in the second half.
Deshaun Watson.
What do you call him?
Deshaun Jackson.
Deshaun Watson, yes. Watson was the Houston Watson, as we knew back in when he was there in Houston. He was 7 for 7 in the fourth quarter with a walk-off field goal. Say what you want to say about Watson, but he's on play this year. He's 5-1 when he's played in a total of 6 games he played. Ravens are still the number one in the division, but Lamar has to cut down on the turnovers. And believe it or not, he actually has more. Lamar does more turnovers this year than he does passing touchdowns. 10 passing touchdowns, 11 turnovers. The only game we started about the Steelers. The Steelers, Pickett stinks. His QBR is 24, 5.5 yards per attempt. Through the first 9 games of the season, the Steelers have been outgained, yet they still have a winning record. Not just like barely. They're 6-3, yet being outgained. Mike Tomlin is a great coach. He's MacGyvering his way to wins by using chewing gum, rubber bands, safety pin, and bristles off a brush, right? Just trying. He's running for coach of the year.
Yeah.
And finally, I will say with the Bengals, they're peaking at the right time, but they have a huge uphill battle to go because they started out 3-1. But the AFC North is the best division, no questions asked.
Oh, I agree. It's amazing to see, and I think the Browns have been a pleasant surprise. And yes, to say again, despite all the moral issues with how they've constructed that team, the defense is amazing. And them winning that Ravens game, they came from behind. It looked like the Ravens had it wrapped up. It was impressive. And the Bengals, the Bengals are the worst team in that division right now, which is wild to think. No one would have thought that coming into this year.
Well, and what's really hurt them is because they lost their first 2 games to divisional opponents, so that already puts them
right. They're behind the 8 ball.
Exactly.
But they're going to be. I think they'll be fine. I mean, Pittsburgh's probably the best coached team in that division.
I would say Baltimore.
You think Baltimore's the worst coached team?
No. Better coached than the Steelers. Baltimore is.
You think so?
I do.
But
I love Harbaugh.
Talent. Baltimore has more talent.
Yeah,
but
sure.
Pittsburgh finds a way to somehow finish 500 or above. But for fantasy purposes, those guys are like, they just benched Najee. Who knows what that really means?
Warren is going to be legit the rest of the year.
Oh, he's a better running back.
He's
a better running back at this point. But yeah, it's a fun division. It's always some hard defenses in that division.
The Bengals are in not a good spot. They play Ravens next week, and it's been said if they lose the game next week, they're pretty much eliminated from the playoffs. If they lose the game next week,
wow,
because then they'll be. Yeah, because mathematically and based on the division they are in, they're not going to make the playoffs.
Not even for a wild card? There's 3 wild card spots.
Right, because they would finish behind the Steelers and Browns if there's a tiebreaker, right? If the division record is a tiebreaker, they'll be at the bottom of that.
Especially when you win a game. Now they're ascending, so,
Yeah.
Dang! Let's keep it moving. Biggest takeaway from Week 10, Olu?
So the biggest takeaway for me for Week 10 is Jared Goff. Jared Goff, he had a great game and he played Jared Goff, for some reason, when it comes to a shootout game, he always wins shootout games every time. So the game on Sunday was not an exception, and he had 333 yards, 2 touchdowns, no interception, completed 23 of 33 passes. So he's been putting together a very low key MVP caliber season, and he's driven his team to a 7-2 records, and he's rated highest. He's the highest rated QB in PFF, and also he's 4th in yards per game, 4th in yards per game. So he's really having a very low key MVP season, and I think the league will pay attention to him. Should be paying attention to him as such. It should definitely be in the MVP race. He's having a great season, guys.
I still credit that to their offensive coordinator too. He's putting Goff in a great position to succeed, and Goff is capitalizing.
You have to execute. Like he doesn't have like a star wide receiver. So he's getting the ball to different receiver. That's just not game scheme. Like there's one thing if it's game schemes, you're scheming guys open. No, he's just executing at a very, very high level.
Very true.
He's like, he is. And like, you're right about some of those high scoring games. You guys remember that game? It was a few years ago. I think it was a Monday night game. It was when he played with the Rams against the Chiefs, and the score was like 54 to 51.
Right.
And the Rams won that game. Like, Jared Goff can ball. Let's not forget the guy was the number 1 overall pick. The guy can ball. He can. And we don't want to admit it. But hey, just like Olu said a few months ago, Detroit's like that team. They're like that girl that you've been hanging with. And you're like, wow, she's beautiful.
Yeah. I forgot I said that.
Is Jared Goff that guy that's beautiful, Olu?
Huh?
Is Jared Goff the man that is beautiful?
No, I didn't say that. I said Detroit. Detroit
He
is.
does kind of look like Ryan Gosling.
Who's that? no,
Say
no.
he's beautiful for the
He's from
followers.
California. California.
I'm from California too, though. I'm from
He's a
California.
really good.
Yes.
Like
We know.
he's a good player.
Let's keep it going. Let's keep it going. Biggest takeaway from week 10, Will.
All right. My biggest takeaway is not just from this 1 week, but the season so far. I truly worry that the ship has sailed on Trevor Lawrence becoming an elite quarterback.
No,
Reaching the
come
top tier.
on.
And here's what I have to say, right? I talked earlier in the season about how I have so much stock in him in fantasy football this year. Like my
You're like
mortgage,
last
right?
place.
It's my mortgage, okay? I'm invested in this man. But I'm starting to feel like this is a house that is beautiful. Like you walk up, it's the curb appeal, manicured lawn. It's got the nice paint. It's got the nice siding. Everything looks great. And then the minute that a storm comes, the tiles start flying off the roof. The
I've
frame
heard this
gets
somewhere.
damaged. There's plumbing issues underneath because the minute there is adversity, this man crumbles. He falls apart. He does not perform well under pressure, whether that's literal pressure in the pocket or pressure in terms of the game, having to lead his team to victory. They keep trying to put talent around him, and they have. He's got Etienne in the backfield. He's got Ingram, Ridley. He's got Christian Kirk. Zay Jones has been out, and that's one of his trusted guys. But he's just not performing at a level we would expect from the number one overall pick, one of the most touted prospects that we have seen in the last – since Andrew Luck, right? That was the thing, like the last 10 years prior. So I'm starting to worry, is this man just who he is? Is he not going to reach the elite level of guys like Mahomes, Hurts, even Allen, if we're talking about fantasy purposes, Burrow? I don't know if he's going to get to that level.
I'll say, if you're gonna buy a house, you got to make sure you do the inspection before you buy the house.
You got to do the inspection. Do that plumbing test. Do that plumbing test. Make sure everything's straight.
I mean, like, I'm not like a huge Trevor Lawrence fan.
Trevor Lawrence is who he's always been. There was never anything elite about him in the NFL.
He has elite touch. His touch is elite, truly.
So, yeah, I just never seen anything elite about Trevor Lawrence. And that's why you need to do an inspection.
Well, and the thing with Trevor Lawrence is not that he's in a big scope of thing. He's like a bad quarterback. The issue with him is just that his hype, where he came from and where he's supposed to be, like to your point, Will, he's supposed to be a top 5 QB at this point, right? Or at least in that verge. What, you would say he's like a 12 to 15 quarterback range? Somewhere in that point right now. So yeah, the issue though is just that he's not where he needs to be at this point.
No, he's not where he needs to be at this point. I'm so like I'm not like a big Trevor Lawrence fan, but the guy, let's not forget, he not that this is everything, but won a Heisman, won a national championship. His pedigree is great. His measurables, his numbers, everything was good. He goes to Jacksonville, and he's only in his third year. Okay, let's. I have a little bit of grace for the guy because he's only in his third year,
and it takes 5 years to recover from Urban Meyer.
Yeah, let's not forget that part of it too. Like, I don't think the ship has sailed. I don't think right now he's off to a good. Last year, wasn't he a top 10 fantasy quarterback that went to the playoffs?
He was like number 8 or 9 last year.
And he went to the playoffs. Like, we quickly forget that the man took the Jacksonville Jaguars to the playoffs and had a top 10 fantasy season.
Yeah.
He's not doing well this year, but I don't think the ship has. It's not good right now.
So hold on to my stock, you're saying? That's the conclusion? This is a stock you hold on to right now?
I would. Yes, I would hold on to it. The man's
he got me four points last week.
Will sell high. This is the
sell high. The high is gone. That's long gone.
This is not high.
I got to hold right now. I got to hold and hope it bounces back.
Well, that's my point. Is that any point beyond this is going to be lower.
This you can't get lower than 4.
Oh,
Four. You can. Deshaun Watson got lower than 4 1 week.
Oh, yes. Minus .8 and then got injured. Oh, beautiful.
No, my biggest takeaway from week 10 was Josh Dobbs, but we've already talked about Josh Dobbs. I was just going to talk about how he could be an NFL quarterback. You know, he was Arizona at the beginning of the season was left for dead. They were not.
Yeah.
They were left for dead. They were not projected to win any games.
No.
They basically, I think they signed Josh Dobbs like a week before the season started.
Yeah. They signed
they-
it was like a joke.
Yeah, that's exactly what it was. They signed him with intentions to lose. And Arizona, I think they won like 2 games with him.
No,
They beat the Cowboys.
One game because they're 2-8 now.
They beat the Cowboys. That
Right,
was the one
that was
game.
the one win. Yeah.
And then they ship him off to Minnesota. And my man
Yep.
is playing DJ Khaled over there. All he does is win. And he fantasy numbers. Like
Another one.
another one. Yeah, and the guy is a top 10 fantasy quarterback right now.
he is. He
Yes.
is.
And with an expiring contract in Minnesota, if
Yeah.
Josh Dobbs wins more games, Josh Dobbs could very well be the
He'll
quarterback
have a
of
job.
Minnesota. He could be. Like,
Yeah,
so anyways, that's
he'll
what
be
I was
the
going to
next
talk about. I think the
big
man's putting up production. He's startable in fantasy. Joshua Dobbs is startable in fantasy football right now.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Wow.
I think
Look what we're talking
I
about.
think
We
next
clowned
year-
you for the Josh Dobbs train, and now we're like, I traded for Josh Dobbs today in our dynasty league. So
Yes.
here we are. I'm sorry, Joshua Dobbs. I'm sorry. Let's look ahead. Matchups to exploit, guys. Let's go into week 11. Let's help our listeners out. Who do we project's going to go off for this week? Who may or may not be in the lineup, but we need to tell listeners, put this man in the lineup. Go for it, Shed.
So another underappreciated quarterback is Sam Howell. Sam Howell, can you believe it, guys? This guy
Yeah.
is 5th in yards per game in the NFL. He just all of a sudden we just kind of skipped over him, right? The Commanders are a top 10-ish offensive, and they're going against a bottom 5 defense in the Giants this week. In his last 3 games, Sam Howell has thrown for 1,034, so over 1,000 yards and 8 touchdowns in his last 3 games. Sam Howell is a starting quarterback in this league, but the Commanders, the other side of the Commanders are pseudo rebuilding. I'm not sure what they're doing, right? Which means, do they believe in him? Don't they believe in him? What are they doing? But against the Giants, they are a must start. I almost feel like, yes, they got a good receiver in McLaurin, a number one wide receiver, but if they can get an elite wide receiver, how the Dolphins gave Tua those weapons, or Sam Howell may make that next jump to an elite quarterback next year. It's surprising, I know, but he is performing very, very well.
Sam Howell, yeah.
I was going to say
for it,
real
Will.
quick, I give a lot of credit to Eric Bieniemy.
Eric
And I think-
Bieniemy.
Yeah, he continues to be underappreciated as an offensive coordinator, but I think this is what he does, right? Is he looks at the players he has and he just puts them in a position to succeed, and he is doing that with Sam Howell. It's amazing to see.
Yep.
Eric Bieniemy, he'll spread the ball around, and I think there was hype at one point at the beginning of the year with Eric Bieniemy going over there. I think we talked about it even on this podcast, and I don't know if they started out too great, but now, I mean, Sam Howell is commanding. Sam Howell's, I wouldn't say commanding an offense, but like
Commanding the Commanders.
But he's putting up numbers, and they're gonna be in some shootouts, I think. Sam Howell, Sam
Yeah.
Howell's playing ball, man. Olu, talk to us, man. Who's your
So
matchup
my
to exploit?
point for week 11 is Devin Singletary versus the Cardinals. So Devin Singletary had a really, really good day on Sunday, and it wasn't a fluke. It wasn't a fluke because of the scheme the Houston Texans has. So we have C.J. Stroud, who's blowing up now. He's really, climbing the elite ladder of the NFL quarterback, and he has 3 receivers who are on pace for 100 yards per game each game. So that allows defense to pay attention to the pass game, hence opening up lanes for the running back, which is currently Devin Singletary. And that's why Devin Singletary had a really, really good game of about 150 yards this past week. So for next week, Arizona Cardinals, who's a team who's really bad at the rush defense, is going to play that team. And the Houston Texans, despite their explosive offense, they are not afraid to run the ball. They run the ball a lot. So that's really a matchup to exploit. So if you have Singletary on your bench, Shed, you might want to put him back in your lineup.
Yes.
That is music to my ears. I'm looking for a super flex
Yeah.
position because I had Gabe Davis, and as we all know, Gabe Davis is boom or bust. He's been bust the
Don't
last
trust
couple
him.
of weeks. So
Yep.
Olu, I'm gonna throw in my lineup,
Yeah.
and we'll see what happens next week.
Yeah, and they're not afraid. They commit to the run, and then they do a play action and roll out off of it. So they're committed to running the ball. And Arizona has a bad run defense, so it's a match made in heaven. You know, you might want to put him in a lineup if you don't have him.
Devin Singletary, golly.
He just ran for 150 yards last week, career high.
Yeah.
And as a Dameon Pierce manager here, I am terrified because it's not looking good, even when he comes back from injury.
Now, even when it comes back from injury, he will also benefit from it too. It's just because of the way the offense is built. You have to respect the passing game, especially with the emergence of C.J. Stroud. You have to. You can't drop your safety into the box. You have to put him up there. So because of that,
True.
opens up run lanes, and they just exploit it. So
Wow.
Very true.
Devin yeah, go for it. Will.
Yeah, mine. So week 11, if this man is healthy, you have to start him, and that is Devon Achane. Coming back off of injury, the Dolphins are playing against the Las Vegas Raiders, who give up an average of 22.2 fantasy points per game to the running back position, and it's going to continue to be a split, right, between Mostert and Achane. Jeff Wilson never made really much of his opportunities, unfortunately. If you got him off the waivers hoping that he was going to jump in and put up Achane numbers, you obviously have been disappointed. Achane's coming back. He is a perfect fit for that Mike McDaniel offense, the way they have the zone blocking scheme and opening up those huge running lanes that he can just explode through. And against the Raiders, that's going to be easy money for Devon Achane this week. If he is in fact active and you've been holding him on your roster, go ahead and put him in with confidence for week 11.
All I'm saying is Antonio Pierce for the Raiders, new head coach. He better run Josh Jacobs and play keep away because this could be a very bad game for the Raiders.
It's so hard. Like Devon Achane, it's like the guy's explosive. Everyone knows it. He only needs to touch the ball 5 to 10 times. But when he does, he's a threat to score every time.
Yeah.
I'm so reluctant to get on the Devon Achane train because I'm like, is that train going to run out of gas? Like, is that train going to make it to the next station? But yeah, the guy is like, he touches the ball and he could go to the house. What has he played in, like 3 games this year? 4 games? And he has 200 yards in each of those games?
Yeah, crazy.
So the only thing with the Dolphins though is that 2 things. Okay, the Dolphins beat bad teams. Check. Raiders are not a good team, so that should be a victory for them.
Yeah.
However, teams that figure out Dolphins want to get to the outside and they're not really physical. If the Raiders are physical with this team, pursuit on the outside, force them inside, that could definitely limit their runs. So the Dolphins, this is an interesting matchup, right? Because Antonio Pierce is a hard-nosed smash head coach, and he may have something lined up for that defense. So we'll see what happens if the Dolphins have been figured out yet.
Shout out to Antonio Pierce, middle linebacker for the 2007 New York Football Giants when we won the Super Bowl.
That's right.
My matchup to exploit is a man who doesn't get love, and that is Courtland Sutton. Yes, his mother named him Courtland. Believe it or not, fellas, did you know that Courtland Sutton is tied for second in the league with 7 touchdowns?
That's wild.
Who would have thought? Like, it was just a month and a half ago that everyone was talking about. We were even talking about, like, I think we debated what's worse or what's a bigger headline, how bad the Broncos are or how good we might have debated about that or we texted about it. how bad the Broncos are or how good the Dolphins are.
Right.
And the Broncos are on a 3-game win streak. They just
Yep.
beat the Bills, which I guess people are up in the air about right now.
12 men
But-
on the field.
Yeah, but Cortland Sutton has 7 touchdowns, 41 catches on the year. And maybe Sean Payton is going to start to use the Mans in a similar way that they use Marcus Colston. I think Cortland Sutton, I think Cortland Sutton could be something special. And this week against Minnesota, which is not a solid defense, I think Cortland Sutton could have himself another game. Again, the man has scored a touchdown now, and I think, let me look at it. I think 4 straight games.
Six out of the last 7 games. Yeah, 6 out of the last 7.
6 out of
Six out of the last 7 games.
Yeah.
Wow.
Could this be a game where 60 points are scored total? Possibly.
Yes.
50 to 60 points. I could see that happening. Will Cortland Sutton get in the end zone? Possibly. We know that Jerry Jeudy is just a jag that will not be resigned. Okay. Cortland Sutton could be their guy. And like I said, no one wants to show him love, but apparently Russell Wilson does. Cortland Sutton is my matchup to exploit this week against the Minnesota Vikings.
That's
I like
a good,
it.
I like that.
Yeah. That's
The
interesting.
way in which Steve Smith tore up Jerry Jeudy. He's just a jag. Am I sorry? Yes, I'm sorry for calling you a mediocre receiver. What did he even say?
That was unnecessary though. But
He said, and people call me and ask, should I trade for Jerry Jeudy? I will say no, because he is not mentally strong enough to handle criticisms.
Oh,
He's
my
a team
God.
receiver.
Jerry Jeudy he will route you up, but he doesn't have really good hands.
He got tore up by, golly, Steve Smith tore him up.
I
Let's
just-
talk about Matt. What's that?
I know. I just remember that video that went viral where he was at, I think, Alabama, and it was probably like the senior game or something like that, and he put a move on a DB and he juked him. He went left, the DB went right, and DB fell. It was bad. It was a horrible look, right?
He's a
And he was
good
like,
route runner.
Oh yeah, he will route you up. Don't get it twisted. He will route you up. But then
Yeah.
when you throw him the ball, like it's like hot potato.
He
Like,
dropped.
The
Yeah.
only regret I have in our dynasty league that the 4 of us are in is the year that Jerry Jeudy came into the league in the rookie draft. I took Jerry Jeudy over CeeDee Lamb. That is the
Oh.
only, in my
Terrible.
6 years of being in this league, that is the only regret that I have is taking Jerry Jeudy.
That can't
over
be
CeeDee
the
Lamb.
only regret that you have. But I tell
Yeah,
you who has
no, it
bigger regrets in real life football that year. The Raiders took Henry Ruggs as the first receiver taken. The Broncos took Jerry Jeudy, and then the Cowboys took CeeDee Lamb third. Then the Eagles took
The
Jalen
Minnesota Vikings.
Rieger. The Eagles
That's
took
it. That's
Jalen
what I meant.
Rieger, and the Vikings got Justin Jefferson as the fifth
oh my
receiver.
goodness.
Fifth receiver taken that year. Unbelievable.
The very next pick after Jalen Rieger. I remember when Jalen Rieger was drafted. I was like, who in the world is Jalen
Who
Rieger?
is this man?
Justin
Nobody
Jefferson
knows.
just like
He won-
didn't Justin Jefferson just win like a national
He
championship?
won the national
Yeah.
championship.
Like,
LSU.
What in the world?
Terrible. The Eagles can't draft. Well, Devontae Smith was a good one, and they traded for A.J. Brown, so it all worked out in the end. But yeah, they missed bad on Jefferson.
Matchups to avoid. Let's talk about it. Matchups to avoid. Let's warn the listeners not to start these guys. Shed, you're up first as always, man.
So the issue I have here with this week is the Bears running back versus Detroit defense. Like Detroit defense has the second best rush defense in the league, only allowing about 3.7 yards per rushing play. The Bears backfield. So the thing with the Bears backfield, it's hard to predict who's going to play in this backfield. It's truly a running back by committee, multiple committees. You know, you have Dante Foreman. He's played 6 games. He's averaging 61 yards a game. Khalil Herbert. He's played 5 games. He's averaging 54 yards a game. Rashawn Johnson. He's played 8 games. That's not bad, but he's only averaging 21 yards a game. Right. So it's like who are you going to play hot potato? Right. And if Justin Fields was at least playing, he would at least help advance this defense. I mean, this rushing game and give these running backs something more to actually do and something more to strive for. But it's hard to predict because you don't know who's playing here. So you can roll the dice, but I would not be starting any of these running backs unless you're desperate. You need somebody to start. and especially not against this 7-2 Lions defense.
No, this is actually a good take because I was just reading an article today, I think on Bleacher Report, talking about Khalil Herbert's coming back from injury. You could probably put him back in your lineups. No, don't do that this week. Do not do that. Terrible advice. Yes. Avoid the matchup against the Lions.
And again, the thing that I would even say, too, with that is game script. The Lions are a better team across the board. They're going to get ahead.
Right.
And will the Bears be running the ball if they're down by more than one score? Like, if they're down by 2 scores in the second half of the game,
you just got to
I don't see them running the ball.
You got to let Tyson Bagent cook. Let that man
Tyson
cook.
Bagent do
let him
what
loose.
Tyson Bagent does.
Let him loose.
Run the ball.
Let that man loose. Olu, you have a spicy take for us, man. Matchup to avoid. Listen in on this one.
No. I mean, they matchup to avoid. I'll say avoid Josh Allen. Like,
wow.
Yeah, bro. Avoid that man. Again, he's a good quarterback, but the problem is he throws the ball. Don't get me wrong. He finds the receiver, but he also finds other teams' receiver. He is out of 10 games this year, he has only not thrown a pick twice this year. Twice.
Yeah.
I told every game he throws a pick. And then the last time he faced the Jets, he had 3 INTs. Three INTs. So again, if you want to win, if you want to win and lose a game in this league, just lose the turnover differential, and that's what he seems to be doing a lot lately. And guess what? Tom Brady told him on Tom Brady's podcast, you might want to not throw the ball and put the ball at risk. He said, you know what, Tom? That's how I play. I play to win. So I'm just going to throw the ball. And ever since I heard that, I was like, yeah, he's going to have a bad year.
But for fantasy, you still say sit him even with the rushing upside and the total yards and all that?
Yes, absolutely. Because number one, he's playing the Jets defense. You're not running against the Jets defense as a quarterback. You're not. Because on Monday, they had a spying on him. He couldn't run at all. And then they throw the ball. He's gonna. We all know Josh Allen will throw at least 1 pick, if not 3 picks. So all that affects your fantasy points.
So I'll say this, Olu. I think what you're saying has a lot of validity to it.
Yes,
but Josh Allen has been turnover prone for quite some time. I believe he might have led the league in interceptions last year. Yet he was still the number 2 fantasy quarterback last year.
Okay.
Yeah.
And the Jets defense is solid, and yes, you're right. He threw 3 interceptions against them week 1. But his rushing ups, like for instance, Josh Allen has rushed for 7 touchdowns this year. Okay. And he ran for 36 yards with 6 yards a carry in week 1 off of 6 carries. So I think he could turn over the ball. But still, now the Jets were his worst game of the season as far as fantasy production. Right. That was his worst game of the season.
Right.
But again, you can throw. Josh Allen can throw. He is the quarterback 1 fantasy football right now.
Number 1 overall player in fantasy.
He is the number 1 fantasy quarterback, number 1 overall player. So I'm with you in that. Could he have a bad game? Absolutely. But to sit the number 1 fantasy player at this point of the season, that's a tough sell.
Let me use your phrase. Listen to me, or you use mine.
That's why I'm in first.
let me talk to you, okay? He's turnover prone, just ordinarily, no matter how good your defense is. Now you're playing one of the top defense in the league, okay? You're playing one of the top defense. Mahomes had a bad game. Mahomes had a really bad. Okay, he had a bad game, a really, really bad game the first week. Mahomes has had a horrible game. This is the same team that Jalen Hurts has a horrible game. Okay, you see a pattern here? So now we're going back to Josh Allen, who's having a bad game. They just fired the OC. So all this is setting up, and him and Stephen Diggs, they're not having a good relationship or rapport. I don't know what's going on there. So ultimately, it's really setting up for a bad night for this team playing this defense. And the Jets just had a all players team meeting today. Like they just said they had the all players. So now they're really like, listen, we got to get it. We got to make sure we do better. So yeah, and it's a division game as well. So all this a recipe to saying sit Josh Allen this week, please.
So here we go. Check this out. Let me from all four of us. Josh Allen, fantasy points over or under?
Now.
Over or under 20 points this week? Fantasy football.
Absolutely not.
You think under?
Absolutely.
Will, what do you think? Over or under 20 points?
I'm going under 20.
Did his audio just go out? Or was it just me?
No, my bad. I was typing. Here we are. I'm going to say under. And he's had, I think, 3 games this year with 15 points or less in fantasy, right? And I think, it's a terrible matchup. Where I could see sitting him is if you are in a single quarterback league and you have someone else on your bench with a favorable matchup. Like, I would maybe start Sam Howell over Josh Allen this week. Because they're playing the Giants. Sam Howell against the Giants.
I would say over. I'm going to go over 20, and we'll start the segment next week. We're going to have to call,
And let me put this. And if they do go over the Bills, it wouldn't be Josh Allen. It would be the running game. It would be the James Cook.
Yeah, but we're talking about Josh Allen fantasy production.
Oh no, definitely not over 20 for sure.
I think he'll go over 20. But let's keep it moving. My matchup to avoid. I'll just keep it simple. Adam Thielen. We've all loved the story of Adam Thielen this season. Will talked about the over 30 club, and 30 is the new 20, baby. Hove. And Adam Thielen has been a surprise to many of people, as at one point he found himself in the top 10. But the Panthers just aren't that good. And Bryce Young seems like he's having a hard time breaking out. He really hasn't broke out or adjusted yet. And Adam Thielen has been great, but I think Adam Thielen is starting to slow down. And this week they are playing against the number 2 pass defense in the league in the Dallas Cowboys. And if there's anything we know about the Cowboys, they can rush the passer. And them boys they could kill Bryce Young. The offensive line is not that solid. Bryce Young he's tiny, small.
Yeah.
Yes. Mm-hmm. He's this new breed of NFL players that like to be small and think it's in style. He's along that Bryce Young, Deuce Vaughn, Josh Downs, Tank Dell, Devon A-Chain, all these guys that think being small is cool and then they get hurt. This could be that game for Bryce Young. And I think, the Panthers are just going to get washed, man. And Adam Thielen, I just don't see him having a productive day. I just see it being very frustrating for the Panthers. That's my take. That's my matchup to avoid. It's tough.
I'll go real quick on mine. I'm just going to say sit Deontay Johnson this week. The Steelers are playing the Browns. Deontay was great in weeks 8 and 9. He actually was kind of a league winner. He won me my games those weeks. I have him in one of my leagues. But this week coming up, they're playing the Cleveland Browns. He just had his worst game, 1 catch for 17 yards against the Packers. And it might be similar against the Browns' elite defense this week. So you want to avoid Deontay Johnson in week 11.
He helped me out in our single game mock 2 weeks ago.
He did.
Deontay. So wild. He gets so many catches, but last week, it was whack. Cleveland's got a tough defense.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
And we went out of order because I skipped Will. I felt weird.
No, you're good. My mute mess got everything twisted around. We're ready now. We're ready.
So what we're going to do now is we're going to go through our mid-season rankings for our wide receivers. Wide receivers are always fun. We love wide receivers. Hey, Shed, do my theme music. We're going to talk about our top 10 wide receivers going the rest of the way. At the beginning of the season, every mock draft was Justin Jefferson 1, Jamar Chase 2, Tyreek Hill 3, Cooper Kupp 4. But here we go. At this point in the season, top 10 receivers, number 1, and I'm going to name all 10, then we're going to go back and we're going to discuss a little bit. Number 1, the 4 Wide Fantasy Football Pod, we have Tyreek Hill at number 1. Pretty simple. Number 2, predictable as well. A.J. Brown. Here's where it starts to get a little different. Number 3, Stephon Diggs. Number 4, Jamar Chase. Number 5, the 4-Wide Fantasy Football Podcast, we have Mr. Sedarius Lamb, CD Lamb.
Mm-hmm.
Number 6, all reliable, old faithful, Keenan Allen. 7, we have Jay Jettas. Number 8, the Sun God, Amon-Ra St. Brown. We all love hearing his name. I feel like with a name like that, he should have opened a law firm. And then number 9, Devontae Adams, the man who seems to be productive year in and year out. And number 10, his 2,000 yards every single season, Mike Evans. That is our top 10. Rounded. Let's talk about it. At number 1, guys, we all had Tyreek Hill at number 1. The man said, I'm going to get 2,000 yards. He only showed that he was human in his last game against Kansas City. But is there anything to say about that? Tyreek Hill is balling right now.
No.
Yeah, he's number 1, unquestioned.
And at number 2, we all had A.J. Brown at number 2. The man was getting 125 yards 6 games in a row, maybe 7. I can't remember if that streak is actually still going on, to be honest with you guys. But A.J. Brown has been balling this year. The Eagles offense, I just want to go on record and say, I still think that they have the best duo in the league of wide receivers. Mark my words. Okay. Do you guys have anything you want to say about that one? AJ, we all had him at number 2, so there is no discrepancy there.
Yeah, no.
No, he's their most reliable offensive player by far. They're going to keep feeding him. So I think he'll keep up this. He won't keep up averaging 125 a game, but he'll be close to that. Oh, I think he could average over 100 a game yards for the rest of the year, sprinkling some touchdowns. Yeah, I like number 2 for him.
Now at number 3, we as a collective have Stephon Diggs, the Haitian sensation. You guys, all 3 of you had him at number 3. I had him at number 6. Okay. Now, I believe the guy's incredible. I mean, everyone fell in love with him with the Minnesota Miracle. And I'm convinced that artist, what's her name? Lizzo, new man on the Minnesota Vikings. I'm convinced she was talking about Stephon Diggs at that point in time. But the reason why I had him at number 6, ultimately, I like the other guys I had above him better. But Buffalo just seems a little dysfunctional to me right now. I'll be honest with you. And I mean, Diggs is the guy who's going to get targets, and Josh Allen can throw the rock. But it's just tough for me with the trajectory that they're going to see him match the production he has had his last few years in Buffalo. But you guys had him at number 3. Does anyone want to speak to that?
I'll speak to that. I think so. The thing with yes, they are in disarray for sure, Buffalo. But with the thing with Stephon is Stephon can have 3 catches for 120 yards easy. So he's just like Mike Evans. All he needs is 1 or 2 or 3 catches, and that could equal like a lot of yardage. And he's gonna at least get at least 1 touchdown somewhere or there. So and that's the big thing about X receivers who are deep threats. Yeah, you could like one reception equals 60 yards. So that's why
he's exceptional after the catch, and I think that's where he could do it. He and Diggs has a capacity. He could blow up. Let's go to number 4. Okay, at number 4, we have Jamar Chase. Now, Shed, you had him at 4. Olu, you had him at 5. Will had him at 4. I also had him at 4. So we're all pretty much around the same area with him. But Olu had him the lowest. Not that much lower than everybody else. But Olu, you had him at 5.
Yeah.
Why didn't you put him at 4?
Just because he's not the same. I mean, again, he's a number 5, he's not number 1, he's not number 2. And number 3 is I feel like it's Diggs because in terms of Diggs is it's really interchangeable between Diggs and Diggs and Jamar. And also in place of Jamar, I have JJ. JJ is coming back. Okay,
Well, we'll get to that. We'll get to him in a sec.
no, but I'm just telling you who I had where you guys
Right,
have Jamar. So if
right.
JJ was playing all along, he would easily be number one or number two, easy. So just because he's coming back and given the pedigree of the kind of player he is, I cannot put him anywhere lower than 4. So in that case, Jamar Chase has to go to 5.
Yeah, I had Chase at 4, and it felt weird putting him at 4, especially since at the beginning of the season he was like number 1 or number 2. Most people had Jefferson at 1 and Chase at 2, and I just think the Bengals are starting to come alive. I think Jamar Chase is going to start to go crazy again. Let's not forget the man is capable of putting up 100 yards and a touchdown every game, as long as he's healthy. But at number 5, we had CeeDee Lamb. Now, I'll speak to this for a second. I had CeeDee Lamb at number 3. CeeDee Lamb was my number 3 after Tyreek and A.J. Brown. And mind you, I cannot stand the Cowboys. I never want to give the Cowboys any credit. And I believe if you're a football fan, you either love the Cowboys because you're a Cowboys fan, or you can't stand the Cowboys.
Yeah.
And so I'm a Giants fan, so I can't stand the Cowboys. But I had CeeDee Lamb all the way at number 3. We collectively have him at number 5. And I think the way in which they're utilizing him right now, it is amazing. Dak Prescott is looking his way. Dak Prescott is on fire right now. I hate admitting that, but the man has thrown like 4 touchdowns the guy's throwing touchdowns all over. And CeeDee Lamb is feasting. That offense is looking good. And so I had him up high. I had him at 3. Olu, you had him all the way down at 8. And Will, you had him at 7. Maybe one of you guys wants to speak to why you had him much lower than where we have him.
Here, let me jump in on that real quick, because if I were to redo these rankings right now on the spot, or I'll just say after week 10, I actually would put CeeDee Lamb at number 3 above Stephon Diggs, because the last 3 weeks, 14 targets, 12 receptions for 158, 16 targets, 11 receptions for 191, and then 14 targets, 11 for 151, and he scored 3 touchdowns the last 3 weeks. He's been the number 1 receiver the last 3 weeks. He's obviously not going to keep up that pace. No one can keep up that pace, but I see him as a top 3 the rest of this year. If I had to redo it right now, I say that with confidence.
That's what I'm talking about. The man is getting the targets. He's getting the yards. We know he has the ball skills. I don't think what we're seeing is some fluke. Like, can he keep up 170 yards, 160 yards a game?
No, not that.
And man, if Dallas can put up points. CeeDee Lamb is balling, man. CeeDee Lamb is balling.
I mean, Adam low because yes, he's balling right now, but knowing what we know about the Dallas Cowboy, they tend to have a spot or a moment in the season where they're phenomenal, and without fail, they always regress back to the mean or lower. So, and that's why I don't trust it yet. So yes, that was a phenomenal year or game, but that's expected of Dallas Cowboys. That happens every year.
And you would think if teams haven't started doing it, you would think they would start to double CD, because Pollard can't run the ball, right? They can stop Pollard, so you can take the safety, put him on top of CD, force Brandon Cooks to beat you, and that would kind of limit his production. So you would think that, and CD's interesting, right? Because we kind of have him all over the place, 3, 5, 7, 8. He's all over the place. I have him at 5, where he's supposed to be at, because I see the
confident.
Because
I'm sorry. Keep going.
No. Because I see the connection, and I see him being at 5, but like a Tyreek, AJ Brown done, Jamar Chase done, right? I mean, those guys are Diggs. I'm a big fan of Diggs too, so I feel like CD is right where he needs to be in that.
CD, I also have him high. He has a very favorable schedule. The rest of the way, he plays Carolina, Washington, Seattle, Philly, Buffalo, Miami, Detroit, Washington again. I think the man has a favorable enough schedule to ball out. I think we'll see though. We'll see. 5's still high. At number 6, we have probably everyone's favorite receiver in the league, Keenan Allen, the man who produces and the man who has a good attitude, as far as we know. But we all have Keenan. Collectively, we have him at 6. Shed, you had him at 6. Olu, you had him at 6. Will had him at 5. And I had him at 8. I had him lower than everybody. Now, mind you, I do want to say as a disclaimer, I really like Keenan Allen. But there's somebody else I had above him. A couple guys I had above him that we haven't even gotten to yet, who I like better. But Keenan Allen's very steady, man. And Justin Herbert is looking his way. Kellen Moore offense is hey, they might not win games all the time, but they can put up points any day of the week.
Absolutely.
We've said it before. Herbert may not be elite, but the man will put up points. And so
right.
Keenan Allen's steady, man. PPR, he's a PPR machine.
Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely.
No, he just produces every year, and he's another guy that doesn't get love. He gets more love than Cortland Sutton, to go back to our earlier point, but he doesn't get the recognition. He just flat out produces every week, every year. So, yeah, I think this is a fair ranking for him. Absolutely.
Is it crazy to think Keenan Allen's a borderline Hall of Famer?
Yes.
It's not crazy to think that. No, I think he is a Hall of Famer because he could finish with the 1,000 receptions, 10,000 yards. And that, if you hit that benchmark, you're in the Hall of Fame. And he's in play for that.
Keenan Allen, I think he is a fantasy football Hall of Famer. But when we talk about Hall of Fame and we think, what did he do as far as a Hall of Fame resume? Individual statistics, okay, yeah, but was he ever even an All-Pro?
So the only
I don't know. That's
I would say question. Yes, but my only apprehension is if you have guys like Brandon Marshall, you have Ocho,
right,
in the Hall of Fame,
Andre Johnson, Steve Smith, yes, Anquan Bolden,
Reggie Wayne. Yeah, so if they're not in the Hall of Fame, sorry, Keenan Allen's not going.
Yeah. Sterling Sharp. Like these guys.
Yeah, the log is back.
Keenan Allen, again, I love him. I like him a lot. He's never led the league in receptions. He's never led the league in yards. He's never been a big touchdown maker. This season could be the most he's ever scored, the most touchdowns he's ever scored because he's on a great pace at this point.
Just the log is backed up. What about Mike Evans? Hall of Fame, yes or no? Quick.
Yes, Mike Evans, yes.
Yes.
Yeah, what Mike Evans has been historic. Let's keep it moving. At number 7, we have Justin Jefferson. Now, doesn't that sound weird, guys?
Yes, I don't know why you got
number 7 the rest of the way is Justin Jefferson.
You said the least is from now moving forward.
Right.
Jefferson, I don't know why he would have been number 2.
But you guys realize that we have him all over the place. We all have him, but he's all over the place on our ranking.
Shed has him at number 10.
Where he belongs.
Yeah, Olu has him at 4. Shed has him at 10. Will has him at 6, and I have him at 7. So we do all have him. But, I mean, if the man comes back this week, which this week when we're recording this would be him playing week 11, which essentially would give him what, guys? Help me with the math. 7 more games?
7 games, yep.
Yeah.
7 games.
Yeah, because they haven't had did they have a bye already, the Vikings? Because it's 8 more games. There's actually 8 more games or 8 more weeks, right? 11 to 18. But I don't know if the Vikings had their bye yet. For me, the only question with him is if he's going to be healthy because hamstrings, they just linger. Even when you come back, the risk of re-injury is high. That's why I had him lower. That's why I didn't have him as number 2 or number 3 is just the risk of it lingering on even after he initially comes back. Or
Vikings have not had their bye yet. They haven't had their bye yet.
So 7 games. If he comes back now, he has 7 games.
Yeah, week 13's their bye. The reason why I had him at number 10 and he barely made my top 10 because, well, 2 reasons. Okay, I was looking at his stats. I mean, the guy produces. Number 1, he produced really high with Kirk Cousins. I don't know how his chemistry is going to be with Dobbs there, right? I mean, Dobbs might be going to other players or something like that, right? So I don't know how the chemistry. So I'm going to assume that's going to fall off a little bit. Plus, he's like wide receiver like 33 right now. So he has to make a huge jump in order to get in like 5 or 6 or 7. So that's why I have him.
Yeah, but we're not accounting for what happened in the first half. We're just saying from this point going forward.
And I think I'm still questioning Dobbs, their connection as well. I'm not sure how.
Yeah, I mean, I had him at 7 because I'm thinking a man as talented as him, he's good, man. He's good. But, I mean, 7's fair. 7's fair, right? He's coming off a hamstring injury. Team still has to bye. But at number 8, we had Amon-Ra St. Brown, the sun god. Okay, I believe of all of us, I had him the highest. I had him at 5. And this is why, for me, Keenan Allen was a little bit lower because I like Amon-Ra better. I think, gosh, that Detroit offense is good, man. That Detroit offense is so good. And he is, without a doubt, the number one option in that passing game. And they are looking his way. I would go as far as to say they run their passing offense through Amon-Ra St. Brown.
Yeah.
And the man is putting up numbers. They line him up all over the place. Out of the slot. Dare I say, I think I even saw him come out of the backfield once. Like, they're scheming him open. And so I think Detroit I think they're trying to make a playoff push. And yeah, and I like Amon-Ra. I have him rated very highly. I think the man's going to get targeted 10 to 15 times a game.
Yep.
Easy.
Safe to say that.
Yep.
Safe to say
Yeah, none of their other receivers are a threat. Jamison Williams is not it. I mean, he's not showing us anything right now. Laporta will get some of those targets, Gibbs, but yeah, I'm on rise. He's the engine for sure.
Olu, you had him the lowest of all of us. You had him at 9. I had him the highest at 5. You had him at 9. Why do you have him so low?
I have him on a fantasy team, and he's okay. For some reason, they've never connected him. He gets yardage for sure, but they've not been connecting so much on the on touchdowns. And also with Jared Goff, he spreads the ball a lot. So in 1 week, a no-name person might go off. The next week, just random people goes off in that offense. So or another one, you have Jameson Williams, yeah. And it's an unpredictable offense, which makes them good. So that's why it's not like Chargers that rely solely on Keenan Allen. They spread the ball around. So that's why.
But Amon-Ra has only gone under 100 yards twice this season. Every other game, he's gone over 100 yards.
All I know is I have him on fantasy, and he's not killing it like
because
he's not killing it.
Because you're not in a PPR league. That's why he's not killing it for you.
That's got to be it. Yep.
His last 3 out of 4 games, he's averaged 28 points or more.
Right. In what format, though? In what format?
Well, PPR.
He's
the only one that matters.
Yeah, format does matter here, guys.
Now, like I said, he's definitely the top 10. Don't get me wrong. Top 10. But again, within that 10, where does he fall? That's just a question.
Here's where it gets interesting at number 9. So those top 8 guys, Hill, Brown, Diggs, Chase, Lamb, Allen, Jefferson, and Amon-Ra, all 4 of us had those 8 guys. There was little discrepancies. But here we go. Number 9 and 10, we get into a range where not even all of us even rank these guys.
Yeah.
Davante Adams and Mike Evans tied.
What? I was the only one with Mike Evans. Why is that? That's criminal.
Well,
because we're leaving out Cooper Kupp.
Yes,
I had Cooper Kupp in my list. That's why. For me, I didn't rank Mike Evans because I had Cooper Kupp and Garrett Wilson. But you had Mike. So why don't we speak first to Davante Adams? Okay, Shed, you had Davante Adams as well as Will. Me and Olu did not. Okay, why doesn't one of you speak to why he ought to be in our top 10, and then maybe me or Olu can speak why he should not be in the top 10.
Yeah,
go for it, Shed.
Yeah, I'll go. Well, because I mean, that whole offense has changed. That whole team has changed. The dynamics have changed. They're gonna feed their stars and their players. Antonio Pierce is gonna make sure Davante Adams gets the ball, and things are going to change moving forward. I mean, the guy is just too talented. He's been producing year in and year out. I mean, he's gonna be a top 10 wide receiver moving forward.
So I beg to differ. I think Devontae Adams is talented. I think he's exceptional. He's a great football player. But one thing I've seen with defensive-minded coaches is they want to run the ball. That's
Yeah,
what they want
yeah.
to do.
Josh Jacobs.
And Devontae Adams, the last 2 weeks since Antonio Pierce has taken over, first week with Antonio Pierce as coach, 4 catches, 34 yards. Second week, 6 catches, 86 yards. No touchdowns in either of those games. Shed, I think you're only saying that because you think Devontae Adams and Jacoby Myers are supposed to be the best duo in the league. So I'm calling your bluff with that one. I think Devontae Adams is a fine football player. He's very good. But I just don't see the Raiders with Aiden O'Connell making Devontae Adams a top 10 receiver. That's my take on Devontae Adams.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, okay, skill set wise, absolutely, no question. He's top 3, but he doesn't have anybody to get him the ball. He can't throw the ball to himself. So that's my reason.
Let's move. Last one. We have Mike Evans. And Olu, you're the only one who ranked Mike Evans.
Yeah, because
but you ranked him so high that he's in our top 10. Now, Olu, I'm going to say this.
Skewed the averages.
It really did skew the average a little bit, but we were all so heavily involved with the top 8 that the other guys after that really didn't get much love. But you had him at 7. Okay.
Yeah.
Now, Olu, speak to us. Why should he be number 7? Now, we collectively obviously had him at, tied for 9th, but you had him in there.
Yes. It's Mike Evans. Like, do I need to say more? Like Mike Evans, he's easily like top 10 receiver easily. And fantasy wise, look at this week alone. He had Shed knows because he's on Shed's team. He had 146 yards with 1 touchdown. Come on, guys, what are we talking about? And he's the one player on that team that has a really good rapport with Baker Mayfield. And Baker Mayfield, he's a gunslinger, throws the ball up, and that's what Mike Evans loves. He gets the ball. One reception, Mike Evans is 70 yards, easy. And also he's a red zone beast. Like he can get touchdowns anytime. So that's why I don't understand why he's not on your top 10 fantasy. And we're talking fantasy. This is not even subjective. This is all in the data. He's top 10 easily.
Well, let me give you the data real quick though. So far through 9 games, because they already had their bye week, Mike Evans has 3 top 10 finishes, but then he has 5 finishes outside the top 20. Yep. So 5 finishes outside the top 20 at the position, meaning wide receiver 21 or worse, and only 3 finishes inside the top 10. So he's not been consistent this year. He's either going to be top 10 one week or he's going to be outside the top 20. So for him to finish inside the top 10 the rest of the way, things will have to change based on what we've seen so far.
Okay. So right now, Mike Evans has 737 yards.
Yes. He's wide receiver 12 overall.
And then 6 touchdowns. Tyreek Hill has the 6 touchdowns. That's above average. So that's a top 10 number. Like that's top 10, guys. I don't know what to.
Yeah, Evans, I want to ask you a question. Were you a big Evans fan before Tom Brady went to Tampa Bay?
Yes, absolutely.
I need receipts. I need proof of this.
For the record, Olu's a big Tom Brady fan, as you probably have found out by now. And traditionally, whenever anyone plays with Tom Brady, Olu says he's a Hall of Famer.
Before Brady got there, I've always thought Mike Evans was criminally underrated. Like even I remember Kay Adams for Good Morning Football. She's a huge Mike Evans fan. So every year she used to always say, Mike Evans underrated. And I was like, you know what? Let me look at this Mike Evans she's talking about. This is way before Brady. And I started watching him and I was like, yo, this is just true. Like this guy just does his job. Like touchdowns, outruns everybody. He's an ultimate X receiver we have in the league. So,
he's good.
So that's why I just feel like he's always incredibly underrated. You guys.
So initially, I did have him in my top 10, but then I thought, wait a minute, Cooper Kupp is still Cooper Kupp. So I was like, I got to put Cooper Kupp in there, and I like the targets Garrett Wilson's getting. There was other guys that I thought of. I liked Michael Pittman Jr. Michael Pittman Jr. Yes. I had him at one point. I was like, I like Michael Pittman
over Mike Evans.
Yes.
Michael Pittman's getting the targets.
More
Over Mike
targets than Evans.
Yes.
He's getting the targets. That's why. And you got to chase volume. And so, like, pound for pound, Mike Evans is a better football player. But I think fantasy-wise, you know, I also considered Olave. Of course, Olu wants Tank Dell in the top 10. So there's lots of discrepancy there, but we know the top 8. We all feel great about the top 8. So when we get down to Adams and Evans, that there's a little differentiation, but ultimately you can't go wrong with these guys. Evans is going to ball. He'll get over 1,000.
You for 2023, you're really going to compare Devontae, Mike Evans. Come on, guys.
Let's go to our say. We got to keep it moving. We've got to keep it moving. We have our top 10. Like I said, not much discrepancy, but enough for us to have some good banter.
Yes.
What we're going to do, guys, is we got to keep it moving. I hate having to do that. But let's go to the single game mock. Let's end up this episode with our single game mock. Yet again, what we're doing, 2-round snake draft of the upcoming Thursday night football game. We do this every single week. We draft skill players, running backs, receivers, and tight ends. No kickers, no defenses, and no quarterbacks. And we've been keeping a running score since week 2 when we started this. In first place, still, the Prince of Nigeria.
No,
Excuse
King.
me, no, the King. Sorry about that. I'm sorry about that.
The King.
What was my man's name from Coming to America? What was his name again?
King, Prince. Like, no, that's a prince.
Zamundo.
Zamundo. The King of Zamundo.
With his own money.
Yes, we have Olu. Olu with 255.9 points. In second place, Shed with 234.9. Yours truly with 189.2. And Will got no love and no help from our special guest last week, Ryan.
Terrible.
But he is in fourth place now for 2 weeks in a row. Will, it's so bad. It's so hard being in fourth place. But now you're 20 points in the hole. With 169. And I do want to say last week's games were rough, man. Ryan said, I don't think we'll get 20 points out of anyone total in this, like 20 points combined in this whole week. We did. But what was so wild is the person who scored the most wasn't even drafted, Dante Foreman. So anyways, this week we have a much more exciting game. The Cincinnati Bengals at the Baltimore Ravens.
Yes.
Cincinnati Bengals at the Baltimore Ravens. We do a snake draft. And this week, Olu has a top pick, followed by Will, then myself and Shed, and then we'll snake back around. So with that said, Olu, you are pick number 1 in a loaded game.
No one other than Nelson. I'm kidding. All right, Jamar Chase, of course.
I wanted him to get cute. I did. And the Ravens secondary is hurting, right? I think Marlon Humphrey is out, isn't he, for this game? He got injured, so I think he's going to miss this one. Gosh, this second pick is actually a little bit harder than I thought because there's no T. Higgins. I don't know about Mixon or Boyd. And then Baltimore, it's so hard to predict who's going to be the one, each week. Oh, man, I'm going to go with the safe pick here because I know he's going to get me some solid points, and that's Mark Andrews. Give me Andrews at the second pick.
No, that wasn't that hard. But my pick, I figured it would go like this. And I'm going to go with the guy who's been surprisingly steady all year. And I don't want to jinx it, but I'm going to go ahead and take Joe Mixon. Give me Joe Mixon with the third pick here. I think the guy's been productive. The Bengals offense is picking up. Yes, Baltimore has a decent defense, but I think Joe Mixon, the thing I like about Joe Mixon is he doesn't really share carries. So
it's true.
I will take Joe Mixon because as much as I like the Ravens backfield, there is a 3-headed monster back there now. So I'll go ahead and take Joe Mixon.
Oh, man, this is interesting. Now it's...
You got the next 2, Shed. You're picking
but it isn't, Shed. One of these picks is obvious, I think. Personally, I think.
I'm upside. Okay, so I'm gonna go with Gus Edwards. Pick one.
The touchdown maker.
Yeah.
That's a great pick for you. The King of Zamunda disapproves of that.
No, I mean it's good.
And let me go with I'm gonna go Zay Flowers. Zay Flowers.
Ah! That's who I wanted.
Okay.
Well,
Wow.
because I was looking at Boyd just because of the upside, but Boyd is hit and miss.
All right, Matt.
Yeah, now this is an interesting play, man. I'm not gonna lie.
You have a safe pick, and then you've got a couple high upside picks.
Golly, I want to take Keaton Mitchell. I do, but Tyler Boyd. I think Tyler Boyd has a higher floor, but Keaton Mitchell.
He's
I
going.
think
He's been going off. He's been going off the last 2 weeks.
Well, yes and no, because he only got 5 touches last week.
But
And that's the part of it. Let's do it. Let's go with it. Let's go with Keaton Mitchell.
Nice.
All right.
I'm gonna go for ceiling here. I think I need to make some moves. I don't like being in third place. I can't go with the floor at this point.
Okay, Keaton Mitchell with the high ceiling. Golly, yeah, I'm in bad shape. I'm 20 points in last place, 20 points behind from third to fourth. Gosh. All right, because of the Ravens' banged up secondary, I'm going to go with Boyd. Give me Tyler Boyd.
Oh, Lord.
Yeah, Boyd was
Olu, take your boy from Princeton. You gotta do it, Olu.
Andre Ioshivas. Or Trenton Irwin, the Crocodile Dundee.
Hey, hold on.
Odell. Go with Odell.
Wait, yeah.
Odell is on the board.
What's his name?
Justice Hill.
Kendrickson is hurt. He's hurt. So what does that mean?
Olu likes to dig deep into the pockets.
That means Justice Hill is the only one left for the Ravens back.
No, what's that other receiver from the Bengals who stepped in for Chase?
Trenton Irwin.
Yeah,
that's his name?
Yes. Yep. 27 years old. This dude. Long hair, receding hairline.
Had 2 touchdowns in the last 2 weeks. He doesn't get a lot of targets. I'm going with my boy from Princeton.
Oh, really? This is the week. This is the week we gain ground on Olu. Yes,
this is that week.
Hold on, let me think. Give me a second. Oh Lord, this is tough.
It's too late. I wrote it in the Google Doc. It cannot be changed.
I'm all right to change my pick. Give me a second.
Chiseled in stone.
Once it's in the Google Doc, it is.
No, give me a second, guys.
And this is why he's in first.
Why? Let me think.
Yeah. Will you hurry up?
Give me a second. One second.
Over an hour and 20 minutes. This is our longest podcast.
Odell, Mitchell.
Because of someone who's not going to score regardless of who it is.
Richard Bittman is still on, huh? You know, also I stick with my boy. I stick with my boy.
All right, Chivas.
All right, so here we go. To round it out, just to summarize here, Olu is sitting with Jamar Chase, as well as Andre Ioshivas. You might be wondering, who in the world is an Andre
He's
Ioshivas?
the most athletic receiver in the league right now.
The most athletic kid is from Princeton. And then Will is sitting with Mark Andrews and Tyler Boyd. I have Joe Mixon and Keaton Mitchell. Shed has Gus Edwards and Zay Flowers. And so ultimately, who wasn't drafted? Rashad Bateman wasn't drafted. Odell wasn't drafted. Could be interesting. We'll see what happens here. But thanks so much for stopping by for our 10th episode of the 4 Wide Fantasy Football Podcast. Next week, we will recap Week 11, give you a preview to Week 12, and we will finish out our re-ranking of the fantasy football season when we re-rank our tight ends. Please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Your co-host, Shed, Olu, Will, and Matt. We'll see you next week.